So, I came across this video that claims Into the Spider-Verse is a bad movie.
It's ridiculous.
I gave it a listen and disagree with the vast majority of the arguments against the movie, but it's still interesting to break down because it aims to dissect the movie in detail and see how well these details connect with one another. As always, don't harass the person I'm responding to. If you want to be constructive, go ahead. With that said, let's start the video.
Most people think this movie is good, but I disagree. It starts off not too bad though. Miles was real popular in his old school and is upset his dad is pretty much forcing him to join a new prestigious school. His dad doesn't seem to like Spider-Man because he answers to no one and wears a mask, and it's just hard to believe. Like, he sees some fucking gigantic lizard mutant causing havoc and he wants the cops to all run at it and die, instead of letting the past spider superhuman dude deal with it.
That doesn't mean he's going to trust Spider-Man, because regardless of his power, he's still an unknown guy with superpowers who they have no easy way of holding accountable. A common reason people don't trust masked vigilantes is because their anonymity allows them to evade accountability. I'm sure Jeff would be fine with Spider-Man if he was more transparent with who he is. You can say his distrust is illogical, but distrust isn't always logical in the first place.
Like, I get what they're going for with a by the rule officer of the law, not like in Spider-Man style. But come on, I don't really buy it.
Why not? Because people like this do exist, even if their thinking is illogical.
Then he sits next to this girl, who hypothetically could be a spider person from another universe, who for some fucking reason traveled backwards in time.
They explained in the movie that the collider can affect the space-time continuum.
What this means is there could be a rupture in the space-time continuum.
Miles gets 0 out of 100 on his true and false physics test, but the teacher obviously catches on and realizes he is purposely botching the test in order to get kicked out of school. So in reality, Miles got 100 out of 100 on the test. Firstly, what kind of test is a true and false out of 100? I thought the score was prestigious.
That doesn't mean the test isn't challenging. All we know is that it's true or false. What matters are the questions themselves.
Secondly, it seemed like Miles was struggling with school in this little montage, but he's just a genius. He knew every question in the test in his mega competitive school. Or was this one test just piss easy for some reason?
Where does the movie imply that the class is too difficult for Miles? The movie implies that the curriculum is rigorous, but Miles still succeeds because he's smart.
And Miles is smart enough to know every answer to the test, but too stupid to know getting 0 is just absurd.
He's not thinking from the perspective of a teacher, so he's not expecting the teacher to analyze how he got a 0 out of 100.
Okay, coincidentally, the first thing Miles' hand sticks to is another human in front of everyone.
Okay, and if Miles discovered his powers in private, then one can easily say it's convenient that he didn't discover them in public. This is why I'm not exactly a fan of the type of criticism that leans so heavily into pointing out conveniences, because oftentimes there's no winning with this criticism. You can point out any detail in any event in your life and point out how different it can turn out if one detail was different. Like, that's great and all, but I don't really value that as a criticism.
But, if hypothetically this girl was a spider person from another universe, who for some fucking reason traveled backwards in time, wouldn't she think it was strange what's happening and maybe think he could be a spider person as well? And either way, why, if that hypothetical was true, would she be freaking out so much and seemed like embarrassed? I don't know.
So that's not what happens in the scene. She does realize that Miles is a spider person, which is why she gives the same advice that Peter gives to Miles to unstick.
Miles, you gotta unstick. What do you do to relax?
Just relax.
And Miles is sticking to people. Wouldn't he be freaking out more about why he's sticking to people than just like feeling really embarrassed?
He does freak out. He's still processing it and reflects on it once he's in private.
How could there be 2 Spider-Men? There can't be 2 Spider-Men. No. It's not possible. It's a normal spider and I'm a normal kid.
Also, no one questioned what the fuck happened. Did they assume he had invisible super glue on his hands?
He could have easily lied and said he had glue on his hand, which is probably what an outside observer would think. Why does the film need to elaborate on this? It isn't important to the story.
Gwen happens to be the only one to see Miles on a building.
Nobody else would know that's him because his back is turned and he's at a distance.
Surely, if she was hypothetically a spider person from another universe who for some fucking reason traveled backwards in time, then at this point, she should sure as shit know this guy has some spider powers, so why wouldn't she talk to him?
Her spider sense is directing her throughout this part of the plot. If Gwen interacted with Miles here, then that would disrupt his interactions with Peter, which directly led into the collider's explosion. This needs to play out, otherwise Gwen would be stuck in a time paradox. She's only here because of the collider's explosion.
Also, it's shown comedically how no one notices him or hears his screams, but if people see him, then they know he's Spider-Man.
No, he showed up for a second and left immediately afterwards. How would they even process his face?
So it seems like Miles really doesn't want to be Spider-Man, but like, isn't being Spider-Man really epic? I just don't think we really have enough to go off to sympathize with him really not wanting to be Spider-Man.
He doesn't want to be Spider-Man because that places a huge burden on his life. That's enough of a reason. On top of this, they've clearly established that Miles doesn't like having great expectations in life. He gets pressured by the amount of responsibility that comes with it.
The film is going with how Miles is already under a load of stress and pressure, so being Spider-Man would just add so much stress and pressure, and his body is changing so much and all, and he got embarrassed. But to me, I feel the guy who wants to leave his school, who seemingly trolled his test to try and get kicked out, I know I had that theory, but still, and who sneaked out of school to do some graffiti with his uncle, would take gaining spider powers as a fuck it we ball moment, and just go all in on going back to his old school, and taking up being Spider-Man, as Spider-Man is awesome.
Why would he think it's awesome when that places a huge amount of responsibility on him? Especially since his biology is changing, and the fact that he has to control this is adding pressure to his everyday life.
For some reason, this is the only time in a movie Miles' Spidey sense can literally see deep into the future at a conversation that takes place. That just ain't how the Spidey sense works, because that's really stupid.
I don't see an issue with the spider sense working this way, though I do think they should explain why it only happens this one time for Miles and not at other times. I don't really have an explanation for that.
His uncle showed Miles a place next to the mega evil place. If hypothetically you know about this place, then Jesus, he doesn't give a shit about Miles, as obviously Miles might come back to it.
Okay, it's not flawless.
Why does this thing retract?
Because the mechanism was activated during the fight. These things could easily get triggered by accident.
Miles should have been seen a lot of times in the fight.
Goblin was temporarily knocked out by this point.
What's the point of a Spidey sense if you don't dodge?
He literally saw Prowler, and his thrusters are simply fast enough to catch Spider-Man off guard.
Miles is recording? Isn't that a bit fucking nonchalant and a little sociopathic?
How is it sociopathic to document an event? It's a Spider-Man fight. That would be cool to see. And plus, Kingpin is an unknown crime boss, so this would kinda be useful information.
Yeah, Spider-Man cannot hold that with one arm, and if he could, which I guess he can, then how's he losing this fight so bad?
All this demonstrates is that Goblin is stronger than Spider-Man, and there's no reason to claim that Spider-Man isn't strong enough to stop that.
I should go up there and help him.
I mean, how though? But I do appreciate the thought.
People can have impulsive thoughts and not act on them. I don't see how this is an issue.
Okay, very lucky.
How is that lucky? The entire place was getting damaged by the collider.
I tried to warn you, pal.
You did try to warn him, you gave him a chance to dodge. But it's only a quip, I guess.
If Goblin dodges, then he's forced out of this position that is restraining Spider-Man.
The explosion should have probably killed everyone.
Based on what? All we see is them getting pushed back, which regular humans can survive in this universe. Even if it's not realistic, this is very clearly a heightened reality.
Spider-Man?
Why doesn't Miles carry him and run off? Does he not have any extra strength yet?
Miles doesn't know what condition Peter is in. For all he knows, moving him around could actually worsen his condition. And Peter is the one giving orders here, so Miles would naturally listen to what he has to say.
This override key is the only way to stop the collider.
Why would the guy who is willing to maybe destroy the Earth care enough about a place to put an override key? And why is it in a place only a spider person, or at least a powered person, could go?
First of all, Doc Ock made the machine. She would have the override key if there's an emergency scenario where she needs to use it. Second of all, Doc Ock has arms that can bring her there, and it makes it more predictable where someone would try to use it. That's why Prowler was waiting there.
Also, it's not the only way to stop the collider. Stopping Kingpin from using a collider is the best way to stop it. whether it's by killing him or restraining him.
First of all, Spider-Man doesn't kill. Second of all, Goblin was already getting in his way. That's why he can't just restrain the Kingpin.
Because if you blow up this collider, what's stopping him from building another?
He can submit the proof after removing the immediate threat, so he'd still go to jail for making the collider.
Really, Peter probably should have, and Miles definitely should, just call the police.
How can the police take on a bunch of supervillains? The reason he doesn't call them is because they can't take him on. I thought that's what you said earlier when you said it's dumb for Jeff not to like Spider-Man.
Get in contact with the FBI and the government and tell them what batshit insane stuff Kingpin is doing.
And how can he guarantee that they'll comply? What if they don't trust him? Plus, he mentions that law enforcement are in Kingpin's pocket.
No one can know. He's got everyone in his pocket.
That is so obviously what Miles should do, rather than Miles trying to do this solo, especially after they know about him.
If Miles doesn't destroy the machine right now, then they have a higher chance of getting it to run sooner. If Miles just leaves and goes to law enforcement, this could tip off Kingpin, especially since valid reports require you to identify yourself. They can't just take the word of a masked vigilante.
Swing up there, use this key, push the button and blow it up.
I get you're in a bad state, Peter, but Miles doesn't have any swingers, so yeah. Maybe you could quickly give him yours? I guess Miles could run up the sides, and if he can't manage that, crawl up with no one noticing him. Maybe Peter should tell him about a place where he could get some gear.
Peter doesn't have the time to detail how the web shooters work or where his base is. He's simply using swing to refer to transportation because he's in a hurry to communicate to him.
This might open a black hole under Brooklyn. If he turns the machine on again, everything you know will disappear.
Okay, there's some contradiction here. We have gone from will to might. However, any decent chance of a black hole appearing is not good. But either way, Peter should tell Kingpin there will be a black hole to try to sway him and his goons.
Saying that it might happen is more representative of the situation which Kingpin and his team would know. And when he says it will happen to Miles, he's trying to motivate him to finish the job. When he's talking to Kingpin, he's trying to extrapolate his motivation and to convince him that this won't change what happened. Kingpin already knows of the risk and doesn't care.
Kill that guy.
Well, Miles failed his promise in about a minute. Bro is dead. Oh, never mind, he teleported and is somehow outrunning this guy.
Okay, it's not flawless.
Prowler, how about we don't stand still, then slowly walk towards him?
The shot is in slow motion.
Oh, and there were conveniently 2 trains in a span of 15 seconds, which lets Miles escape.
Trains can be close up when the previous one is right behind the front train and is waiting for it to complete its stop. This happens in New York City in real life.
Okay, I get Miles has just learned a lot of insane information, and has just escaped near death multiple times. But right now, Miles is in a race against time to stop everyone from dying. He needs to think proactively. All his thoughts right now should be on not letting Kingpin open the collider. He should know that he probably ain't gonna be able to put the thingy in the hole, because it's gonna be heavily guarded, as Kingpin should be able to figure out that Miles probably has the chip. So Miles should just tell his dad everything, then try to get the US government involved to raid Kingpin and stop the collider from opening.
If Miles can't take on the villains, then what makes you think a bunch of normal guys with guns can? Peter couldn't even take them on. Plus, his dad doesn't trust Spider-Man, so he may not even buy this.
He can say he knows where the earthquakes are coming from and he saw Spider-Man die. With how the earthquakes seem like some man-made craziness, he could get people to believe him. I think he could definitely get his dad to believe him.
He can't prove all of what he's saying by pointing to the earthquakes. That doesn't prove the source of the problem.
And anyway, he doesn't have a choice.
Yes, he does. His choice is to prepare by training.
It is a race against a likely extinction of humanity. But instead, Miles just doesn't mention anything and goes to bed.
Because he's tired and he can't train when he needs to sleep. And there's no way Kingpin's collider will be ready immediately afterwards.
Even though we don't really know how it all went down, I'm also thinking of what Peter Parker was doing. He managed to find out everything about the collider, either steal or make a counter switch, but didn't tell anyone.
He told Aunt May what he was doing. He didn't tell other people because there's no one else he can trust.
Are Miles' parents not gonna question how he scaled a building and why he scaled a building?
They didn't see him scale a building, they just saw him in his room. He could have snuck in for all they knew.
So then Spider-Man's death comes in on the news, but how? Spider-Man was left dead in a secret collider room. Did Kingpin put his body out on the street?
Yes, he did. The movie literally tells you that Peter was dropped off in front of the Daily Bugle. It's not unreasonable to infer either. This sends a message to people in the city.
Wouldn't he try to keep that hidden and not bring attention to anything?
Why? It sends a message to the criminal underworld. He'd want people to know that Spider-Man is gone. Plus, this could demoralize heroism, which is something mob bosses would want to do.
Can I return it if it doesn't fit?
It always fits, eventually.
That's an okay joke, except Miles is more concerned about wasting $5 than, you know, everyone dying.
He's not interrupting the mission, he's just asking a question.
The tone is utterly fucked.
How? It leads into a quote that resonates with the theme of the movie. It's not just some joke.
It always fits, eventually.
Miles thinks now is a good time to try and jump some buildings. Bro, just test your athleticism by like jumping and running and punching to see how strong you are.
He has no frame of reference besides the comic book he's using as a guide.
Some bad things could happen if you jump off a building. For fuck's sake, this is how the gadget breaks? It's just so contrived.
It's not contrived because it's based on a character flaw. Character flaws lead to consequences. This is entirely natural.
Miles feels like a bit of a failure and goes to Spider-Man's grave, which by the way is open to the public and completely empty. Yeah, nah.
It's nighttime right now. Most people are asleep.
Somehow Miles is not freaking the fuck out that the entire world might just blow up at any moment. And that the only thing that at least the story is treating that can stop it, Miles just broke in the stupidest way possible.
Miles is shown to be let down right now, and the reason he's not panicking is because they're not close to the collider being activated yet. He would panic once he knows for a fact that he failed.
He was much more stressed when people were making fun of him in school.
That's because it's happening in the moment, not something that might happen later. He was calm before he heard the reactions.
No one saw. It's okay. No one knows.
So Peter B. Parker shows up by sheer coincidence.
He shows up because he's trying to investigate clues as to what happened to the other Peter, and this person seems to have a personal connection to him.
And Miles accidentally electrocutes him, which somehow knocks him out.
How is that an issue? Spider-Man isn't immune to electricity. Electro wouldn't be a threat if so.
And why does Peter B. want to talk to him? And why does he walk up to him so creepily?
Goodbye, sir. I will not even dignify that argument with a response.
This doesn't kill any civilians or Peter.
Peter is a superhuman, and even if it did kill any civilians, this doesn't affect the overall plot.
Doesn't even knock him out. And then Peter B gets knocked out from this and later this. So, I don't know.
Peter doesn't get knocked out by the tombstone, he just gets dazed by it. And electricity can literally interfere with your heart. It's a different form of damage.
But faster please come and say freeze like it's a crime being next to Peter's grave. Okay.
They think he's kidnapping someone.
And then there's the goofiest fuck chase, where this guy easily could have died, and they could have easily killed others.
Miles isn't used to his powers, so this is all accidental.
Peter's face should be fucking obliterated, and possibly decapitated here.
He's Spider-Man. Do you know how durable Spider-Man is?
Except he's fine surviving this, so who the fuck knows.
Spider-Man has super durability. What, do you reject this premise?
All this is happening because Miles is acting like a fucking clown when he once again thinks everyone might die in the coming days.
He's not doing this on purpose. He's making mistakes because he's not used to his powers.
Oh yeah, and no one is acting surprised at all that there clearly is another Spider-Man?
You say that as you show a clip of them being surprised.
1 foot lower and this little girl gets fucking A-trained.
Goodbye, sir. I will not even dignify that argument with a response.
This is amazing. You can teach me just like Peter said he would.
Priorities, Miles. Where are your priorities?
He needs to be trained in order to save the multiverse. That is within his priorities.
Peter B doesn't want to ask Miles how Peter died when he said himself that Peter's death links to how he got here. Is he stupid?
He already inferred how it would have happened, and he does ask Miles questions when he needs to.
Where's the collider?
Brooklyn, under Fisk Tower.
Goodbye.
If he didn't glitch right this second, then he would have just pissed off and the whole movie completely changes.
No, because he could have chosen to leave after that, but didn't. Also, it's clear that his guilty conscience wouldn't allow him to just leave Miles. That's what the scene shows at the end.
Alright, kid, you win.
And Miles, quick, tell him the things you know, for fuck's sake, he's trying to leave.
He's asking him about his health.
You okay?
No, I'm not.
What's going on with your body?
And he's trying to convince Peter to help him.
Great power comes
Don't
great.
you dare finish that sentence.
And Peter is clearly willing to engage in conversation where Miles does discuss what he knows.
And the glitch saves Miles a second time. Jesus Christ.
Peter is still willing to engage in conversation.
My advice, back to being a regular kid.
I don't have a choice. Kingpin's got a super collider. He's trying to kill me.
Why is Miles a complete sociopath? He's thinking about himself here?
Because Peter is telling him to be a normal kid again. Miles is explaining why he doesn't have that specific option.
Am I the only one who did the reading?
When it runs again, I'll just jump in and get
Well,
back
you-
to my
you can't
life.
let the-
Why would you think this? What a wild assumption. Sure, jumping back into a multi-dimensional portal will just zap you back into your own dimension.
Why not try anyway? He also knows that there's likely an override key, based on his own experiences.
There's always a bypass key, a virus key, a who cares key I can never remember.
I'm supposed to destroy it so it never runs again, or everyone's gonna die.
Why was the way Miles said everybody's gonna die so casual?
Or everyone's gonna die.
Does he not know what everyone's gonna die means?
Explain to me what so casually even means. Just because he can talk at a normal tone doesn't mean he's treating it casually.
Also, this confirms he's going with what Peter told him. He says everyone will die, not even might die.
But there's always a little bit of time before everybody dies, and that's when I do my best work.
Peter, are you dumb? Your plan is to jump back into the thing after they run it. You don't have time to do your best work because you think you're gonna be in your own fucking dimension by then.
Peter doesn't know the full scope of his plan yet. Spider-Man tends to improvise and figure out the plan as he goes along. He would still try to form a plan where everyone gets saved and he goes home.
And Miles is telling you, if you do this, then everyone will die. If a machine runs again, everybody will die.
He already addressed this. He knows that statement is typically exaggeratory in order to hammer a point, while Miles is taking it at face value.
That is what they always say. But there's always a little bit of time before everybody dies, and that's when I do my best work.
If you think jumping back in the machine will send you back to your dimension, then it will be at the cost of an entire world. So basically, you're stuck here with a potential glitching situation unless you want to kill 8 billion people.
That's not the situation in the film. Peter is looking to find a way to save himself and the multiverse. He has a choice in the situation so he doesn't have to die.
Did you break this?
No, it broke.
No accountability for breaking supposedly the thing that will save the world.
Miles doesn't see it as him intentionally breaking it. He sees it as an accident. That's why he frames it that way.
He turns the machine on again. Everything you know will disappear.
Look, if I don't turn off the collider after you leave, everyone in this city, my parents, my uncle, and millions of others will die.
If he turns the machine on again,
Look, if I don't turn off the collider...
This is where the movie officially shits the bed, and then keeps shitting the same bed until the end. It has no idea what it's just done. For Miles to turn off the machine has to be turned on. And if the machine's turned on, then there might be a black hole. So like Miles promised, under no circumstances should he let the machine ever be turned on again.
Again, they've addressed this. It's not absolute. There's always time before that realistically happens for Peter to ensure that everyone else gets to go home.
Also, why does Miles think it's only Brooklyn that will be sucked into a black hole?
Everyone in this city.
Does he genuinely not know what the word everyone means?
Play the rest of the line. He literally says millions of others afterwards.
And millions of others will die. And you're just gonna go home and leave me here to figure this out for myself? You good with that, Spider-Man? Yeah.
Dude, like what the fuck? He's just an actual sociopath. He doesn't give a shit about at least millions of people. Not my universe, not my problem.
Okay, what does he do right afterwards?
Alright, kid, you win.
Peter's initial response is for a couple reasons. One, he doesn't want to bring a child into Spider-Man's life. That's not something he wants to be a part of. Two, he thinks the plan is better off if he does it alone. He worries that Miles could jeopardize it.
This is why I never had kids. This is why I never did that.
It's very clear that Peter isn't okay with letting people die. He's just trying to figure this out for himself and rationalizes that he can't finish the job without Miles, so he has to work with Miles so he figures out how to be Spider-Man.
If we fire again this week, there could be a black hole under Brooklyn.
So once again, the stakes are reaffirmed that if they fire the thing up again, there's a high chance for a goddamn black hole to appear. So surely the good guys have to never ever under any circumstances let the collider be turned back on again.
That is what they always say. But there's always a little bit of time before everybody dies, and that's when I do my best work.
So the buildings and buses from other universes were popping up in this one? But what about the people in the buses and buildings? Did they get sent to this universe? I assume not, but how? And if not, then did everyone in the buildings look down at nothing under their feet except the already stacked up guts and gore from the people in the previous floors who plummeted to their deaths before them?
I don't think the movie is implying that the buildings here are literally transported from one universe to another. Rather, it's implying that it's existing in both universes at the same time, and the universes are overlapping, judging by the glitch effects. They're likely seeing something similar in their own universes, just with the building position swapped. I say this because when the versions of Fisk's family show up, they're not technically in the universe. They seem partially there because they keep glitching in and out, as if the universes are overlapping. This is entirely possible since Olivia Octavia said that this affects space and time, and in this case, it's affecting space.
What this means is there could be a rupture in the space-time continuum.
So when building the bridge between two universes, it starts glitching and mixing up space between these universes. This is visually consistent when Peter is brought to Miles' universe and his building starts to glitch. So if the buildings are simply existing across both universes through the collider, confusing time and space, then that means the people would still be supported by the buildings or vehicles. This one admittedly took more thought to try to explain, but once I referenced back to what Doc Ock said about how the collider can affect reality, and the moment Kingpin sees his family on the train, I realized that its effect on space must be factoring into these dimensions glitching into each other, as if they're overlapping.
And this is just some other huge reason to not let the collider ever be turned on again. It's even fucking up different universes.
If anything, that makes an additional case to let the collider run, because opening it is the only way to course correct and reverse these effects on other universes.
Somehow putting a password into a computer is made into an utter mess of a scene. So we see the password cuts off, but like it's 15 digits at the most. It's just not remotely believable for Peter to see it being typed out in a reflection and remember it all.
Peter is known to have enhanced reaction speed, which allows him to dodge bullets and contend with characters like Electro.
Then he's typing it out and gets to what easily looks like the whole password. Then fucks around with Miles for a bit, and then this happens.
Remember this password. Capital DGFAMPESAND35 and download the schematic. While I turn on the charm.
So, where to begin? The password now is exactly 40 digits long. 14 Peter put in, and 26 he gives to Miles. Peter had to now see 40 digits being typed out in the reflection, and then remember them all. So Peter is just HAL 9001.
All you've demonstrated is that Peter has great reflexes and impressive memory. That's not a criticism.
And yet it's such a fucking goober. He didn't just put in the whole password when he had so much time.
He wasn't done yet, and he interrupted himself because Miles was risking the mission by drawing attention.
And then he expects Miles to remember 26 digits. Also, just knock the bitch out, like, come on.
Okay, it's not flawless.
And Miles remembers pretty much all the fucking password. It's just, whatever. It's for comedy, I guess.
Miles also has great reflexes and a great memory. Again, that's not a criticism.
The password has gone from 40 digits to 15.
Nitpick, but fair.
How in the world did Peter get knocked back that far by a little push?
Because again, it's a hidden universe where they're willing to exaggerate their physics. That's internally consistent with all of the action in the movie.
And how did an evil chair magically appear?
Okay, it's not flawless.
Miles taking the whole computer is a funny joke, but Miles is kinda just leaving Peter to potentially die. So, to be fair to Miles, he should not expect Peter to be placed in a magical evil chair.
So that refutes your own statement.
Woman, he is stuck in the chair. You said you wanted to watch him slowly die. So why are you breaking him out of a thing you fucking somehow got him stuck in?
She doesn't believe she needs the chair to beat Peter. She just wants Peter's full attention before killing him. And she wants to reveal this in the most shocking way.
How and why in the shit is she here?
Because she would have seen the video made by Olivia Octavius about the multiverse. And that video links back to Alchemax.
Also, Miles getting dragged here with a POV shot is pretty sick. Although I don't know how the door closed or what's stopping her breaking it.
Okay, it's not flawless.
How has Kingpin got hundreds of scientists to work for his catastrophically dangerous machine? They are clearly evil when they are all pointing guns at Spider-Man. Kingpin hired all these people, without leaking any information to the FBI or anywhere?
For all we know, these people believe the project will be successful, and those who aren't sure could be threatened into complying. Fisk also has the law enforcement in his pocket, so reporting to them wouldn't guarantee their safety. For all we know, he's using law enforcement to blackmail some of these people through possible evidence of their crimes.
And how the fuck did Kingpin get the lizard guy, Doc Ock, and all the other zany characters to work for him? Money? Aren't all these villains crazy egotistical? But they are down to help Kingpin at the cost of a whole world maybe being destroyed. I mean, there's just nothing there.
Well, there is material to work with. Doc Ock thinks the Collider works and is arrogant enough to believe it will be successful.
This is very, very good. This means you get what you want. It means my collider works.
The other characters, like Goblin, Tombstone, and Scorpion, could have either been threatened into helping, or tricked into believing the project is safe. None of these villains strike me as intelligent, so I don't expect them not to be gullible here, and even then, we don't even know if they had an opportunity to back down from what Fisk is doing. The Prowler is the only character I'll agree on because his most redeeming trait is the fact that he cares about his family more than anything else, and wouldn't work for Kingpin if he's possibly going to get them killed, and he had the opportunity to pretend he didn't find the other Spider-Man, which would heighten their chances of success, but he chose to bring all of the villains there to kill them all anyway. And I don't think he'd buy Kingpin or Doc Ock claiming that it's going to be safe after the earthquakes would have already affected the city numerous times. Prowler has no personal reason to help Kingpin out, so he's the least believable case here. It especially doesn't help that he literally brought Miles to a location that is close to the Collider, so it's not even like he's trying to minimize the danger that Miles would be in. I think the criticism has merit if we're talking about the Prowler, but I do think there's context for these other villains that make sense of this.
Also, since these scientists are evil, why the fuck do they wait for them to get outside before they start shooting?
Because they could end up shooting other scientists in the process. It's actually safer to shoot them when no scientists are behind them.
And will these guns kill them? Because they all apparently have fucking sequel stormtrooper aim.
Okay, it's not flawless.
Even if I remove the ever-looming film-ruining problem of a black hole not being treated at all properly by the characters, I still don't think it makes sense for Miles' character to be joking around at all, really. He witnessed Spider-Man die in front of him. He was captured and then killed by the people he is going up against. I feel he would be constantly worried that himself and Peter will die just like the other Peter.
What joke does he make that's out of place? He's pretty much taking most of this seriously, and the only jokes I've heard from him are meant to ease the tension of the situation, which is something people might do when they're scared.
Miles managed to get decently far before colliding into a tree. But on foot, these guys from atop a building have teleported right next to him.
The scientists on the lower floor could have been sent, and that's why they're on the floor already.
And she's already here, whatever.
Yeah? Because she has 4 arms that make her move faster.
So Miles clutches up, okay, and him and Peter swing pretty far for a little bit, after knocking Doc Ock down. They surely have outran everyone by now. Oh no, Peter glitched, but it's fine, he just has to get back up. So Doc Ock gets up next to them.
Okay, it's not flawless.
So Spider-Woman decides to string up our team so they're out to fight, so she can show off her Go Boss powers and win the 1 vs 1. Okay, so fuck you, what if you lost? Maybe it would have been helpful to have 2 other teammates.
Maybe she doesn't want others involved to prevent them from being harmed. She just saw Peter glitching and Miles is clearly inexperienced, and this is consistent with what we understand of her character. It's why she typically doesn't work with people.
And I don't do friends anymore, just to avoid any distractions.
And she has made it clear that she'd rather risk her own life than risk someone else's.
Peter, you don't have to stay behind. I can do it.
But at the same time, shouldn't Miles and especially Peter be able to break out some webs? Oh, what? But she's the girl in Miles' class.
They can break out. They're just caught off guard by Gwen and she's clearly executing a plan. They have no reason to interrupt this, so they're not in a hurry to break free.
I'm from another dimension.
Before anything, why is any version of Spider-Man except Peter Parker being sent to this dimension? Shouldn't it just be people with Peter's DNA?
Well, the reasoning must come down to their spider DNA, since the spider bite still affects their genetics.
I was blown into last week.
For some ungodly reason, Gwen was blown back in time. Because, you know, Randomly adding time travel to your fucking multiverse movie sounds like a fantastic fucking idea.
The reason she's sent back is because the collider affects the space-time continuum. This is an established rule. I don't see the issue so long as they stay consistent with their rules as to how it works.
And there's just no reason for it. It's just pure garbage to get her to meet Miles before Peter died. Her being sent back in time, whilst being from another universe, I believe can make some strange version of a grandfather's paradox. Because if Gwen, hypothetically, managed to stop Peter getting in the collider, then there is a paradox.
But she didn't stop him, and there's a reason for why her spider sense didn't direct her to stop the collider. It's to avoid a paradox to the timeline.
Gwen stopped herself from coming into this universe, so she wouldn't be in this universe to stop herself from coming into it. But I guess you can argue that Gwen was always in this universe a week before the collider happened, so there's always one timeline and is where she doesn't stop Peter going into the collider. That feels like it could make sense, but what if instead of Gwen coming through the portal, it's an atomic bomb, which blows up the collider a week before it sends a bomb back in time? Then this is clearly a paradox, and so Gwen being sent back in time is very fucky.
How so? Yeah, there are ways that the timeline could face a paradox, and all that would happen is that the timeline and fabric of reality would fall apart. The movie isn't ruling out that possibility. They literally said that it could cause a rupture in space and time, but that's not the situation we have, so I don't see how that's a problem. As long as Gwen doesn't prevent the events that brought her here to begin with, then she isn't destroying the timeline.
Also, just simply why would a multi-dimensional portal send her back in time and no one else?
Because the effects of the collider seem to be fluctuating. We also see 3 other spider people end up at Times Square, in the same location, but obviously at different times because Peter B. Parker never saw them despite also ending up at the same location. In their case, they could have showed up earlier or later. Either way, the timing affects them differently as well.
And has she not been glitching for a week? Isn't the glitching meant to get worse over time?
Yeah, but there's nothing stating that a week is too long to survive the glitching.
And it would be a whole thing if someone noticed her glitching.
The glitching does occur randomly though, and can often be spread throughout the day. We know this because Peter seemed not to glitch at the restaurant and the bus ride to Alchemax. Even then, he didn't glitch until he was trapped in the chair. And Gwen only spends limited time in school, only for one class and to walk around and investigate, where most people don't pay attention to her anyway. It's to a point where you can say it's convenient that it never happened, but if it did happen, you can also say that's convenient given how little time she spends most of the day in school and the low likelihood of herself drawing attention. And even if someone happened to notice a glitch, she could just walk away and what are they gonna tell anyone? No one's gonna buy this. This is also another one of those cases where I put little stock into this kind of criticism because with just about any event, you can say it's convenient how it played out.
My spider sense told me to head to Vision's Academy. Wasn't sure why until I met you.
I thought Spidey senses are for being aware of imminent danger, not some insane future foresight.
You understand that an early warning of danger is a form of future foresight, correct?
Because that never comes in use again in this whole movie.
Well, it doesn't need to because it was successful in guiding Gwen to where she needed to be.
Also, why Vision's Academy? Because of Miles? Miles wasn't even fucking Spider-Man when you joined.
But he eventually becomes Spider-Man, and the Academy also has information about the Collider.
And when you saw him as Spider-Man, for some unknown reason, you did fuck all.
Why would she? That could change the progression of events that brought her here in the first place and create the time paradox that you mentioned.
And why didn't your Spidey senses do the whole seeing another Spider-Person thing?
Because Miles' abilities were still developing, which includes his spider sense.
Also, why wouldn't your Spidey senses connect you to the actual Spider-Man, Peter Parker? Wouldn't trying to find Peter be a pretty great use of time anyway?
Not if doing so would result in a major time paradox. I imagine her spider sense would warn her not to do that.
And if this way more logical thing happened, then we would be heading easily into some crazy paradox shit.
So if you know that, shouldn't that indicate why her spider sense, something known to predict the future, wouldn't bring her towards something that would disrupt the timeline? If anything, this explains why this is happening this way.
Also, how in the world does she get into Vision's Academy? Like, I mean, come on, she is homeless without money.
She didn't enroll in that class, she just took a uniform and pretended she belonged. I don't see why she can't do that.
Also again, what the fuck is Gwen doing at Alchemax? Alchemax? We're just not gonna talk about it? Alright.
Well, I think there's an intuitive assumption to be made. She learned about Alchemax from a video at school, so she would naturally decide to investigate that.
Now for Kingpin's backstory and his whole motivation. He was fighting Spider-Man. His wife and son saw. They were horrified. They fled, and mostly coincidentally, got hit by a car and died.
That's not really a coincidence. They were panicked and acting on emotion, which led to Vanessa not fully paying attention to the road when looking behind, as well as speeding on the road. This is simply cause and effect in action.
Now Kingpin wants to bring them back by replacing them with different versions of them from another universe. Okay, for starters, it's just such a lame way for them to die. His wife was speeding but didn't need to be.
She was so scared by Kingpin that she felt she needed to speed like that. That's the point.
But more importantly, what is Kingpin's motivation here? I just can't believe he's so dense that he thinks doing this is a good idea in any way. Like, of course another version of his wife and son would want to go back to their own universe instead of being with him. Like, it's just so obvious. I don't buy it.
It may be obvious to you, but you're not the Kingpin. He's a man desperate for his family back through any possible means. The movie is aware that his plan shouldn't work. It's shown by the variance of his family rejecting him at the end. His entire plan is inherently illogical. Peter points this out to him.
I know what you're trying to do, and it won't work. They're gone.
Kingpin kills him after saying this. He doesn't care about that, because this is his only option. It's the closest he can get to having a family again.
And the funny thing is, if he does bring back some version of them from another universe, they will fucking implode on impact.
No, they won't, because they have a dedicated container for them to enter in. The reason the other spider people were blasted into the city is because the machine was overloaded and unstable because of Peter. And even if one fails, Doc Ock says she can bring in as many families as he wants.
The Collider will bring your family back. As many families as you want.
The fuck's this guy's problem? Plus his guns are still out.
Kingpin would have told Tombstone to aim his gun so that he has leverage in the conversation.
And the Collider will bring your family back.
I thought she didn't want to go through with turning on the Collider because of a whole black hole situation.
She didn't say that she isn't okay with turning on the machine. She just said that she wanted more time because of these concerns. But she does believe that she now has enough information to conclude that her machine works.
There's 3, actually. It means my Collider works.
You know where we can make the new one?
Gwen thought to go to Aunt May for a place to make another goober. Why?
Why not? She might have known who Peter was while he was Spider-Man. She could have helpful information and resources.
But it pays off because Peter had a Batcave. Since when does Spider-Man have a Batcave? Am I out the loop on this one? Batman could have a Batcave because Bruce Wayne is like the richest guy in the world. Peter is a grad student and part-time photographer.
I assume that the Spider-Man merch we saw at the beginning helped him make money. He even did an album cover and sang for the album. This stuff can make money, especially when Spider-Man is attached to it.
Also, it must be breaking some building regulations.
Like what? And even if it did, why not assume that Peter thought of a way to do it without getting caught? He should be smart enough to do that.
And how the fuck do you even build this labyrinth, even with infinite money, without anyone noticing?
It's underground. This inherently makes it easier to build this without being seen. The elevator starts on the shed, so it wouldn't be obvious to a casual observer.
Also, why the fuck is it at Aunt May's house?
Probably because that's where Peter started as Spider-Man.
Why were they all hiding in the ceiling?
Because they don't know who's entering.
Also, how the fuck did they all think to go to Aunt May's house?
Because that's a known associate of Spider-Man.
Also, how did no civilians notice an anime girl with a robot and a goddamn pig walking around?
Maybe they did, but either people didn't buy it when told, or the witnesses thought they were just costumes. A lot of people wear costumes in Times Square, especially in this universe where everyone's dressed as Spider-Man.
These guys have very little character, and the only one that's kinda funny is Spider-Noir. The pig and anime girl are just annoying.
I mean, they don't have a whole lot of character, but they're not major focuses in the story. They're mostly there to demonstrate the wide variety in the Spider-Verse, which is what's interesting about the concept to begin with.
The only way home is back through that Collider gizmo.
One of us has to stay behind and destroy it.
Okay, somehow these new spider people and pig know a lot about the Collider. Okay, they know it's really dangerous, that one of them has to stay behind and destroy it. I don't know how they plan to destroy it when they haven't got the chip.
Maybe they were discussing a plan to get a new one. They can clearly see they have a goober, so I don't know why this would come up now.
But that's besides the point. Their plan is to let it be turned on so they can jump in, but then leave a guy to destroy it because it's dangerous. but not dangerous enough to not let it be turned on?
Again, there's always time before people realistically die, and that's the time they intend to use to make it back home. And again, they have commitments in their universes. Their universes could literally be doomed if they don't make it back.
We have no indication of a time limit for it to become dangerous.
But we know that's not going to happen literally right away, and they intend to immediately get back home.
Even turning it on again seems to have a very high chance in creating a black hole. This plan is purely counterintuitive, and if any of them have an ounce of morals, they should not let it be turned back on. These are apparent heroes. They should sacrifice their lives in favor of the Earth, not turning into a black hole.
As a wise Spider-Man once said,
I can do both!
But this film doesn't even consider the implications of letting the machine be turned on for any amount of time, and it turns every single one of our heroes into villains without the film realizing it.
Why? Because they don't want to give in to ultimatums? That isn't unheroic. That simply means they're willing to put in the effort to save everyone in spite of the challenge. There is still an option to save the Spider People and save the multiverse. And again, space and time are already displaced by the Collider. Reversing its effects would resolve that.
Spider-Man is known as one of the most sacrificial superheroes. This is a fuck up on a catastrophic level.
So are these people. All of them are willing to die to send everyone home.
I'll do it.
Now, it's interesting how that moment in Spider-Man 2 gets brought up, because you can just as easily make an argument for Tobey to let the train die under the same reasoning applied to Spider-Verse. Preventing the train from crashing requires Peter to exhaust himself and leave himself open to dying at the hands of Doc Ock. You can argue that's a problem, because this leaves Doc Ock open to kill more people without any consequences. For whatever grand plan he has, Spider-Man is the only one who's able to stop him. So you can argue that he should be willing to sacrifice a train to make sure that Doc Ock gets defeated, and he should by extension be willing to kill Doc Ock, since that would ensure that he can't hurt other people. But that isn't how Spider-Man operates. He believes everyone is worth fighting for, in spite of the challenges thrown his way. That's why he doesn't kill. That's why he doesn't leave people to die unless he's given reason to believe that there's no reliable alternative. He leaves sacrifices as a last resort, and in the situation we have in the movie, we do have possible alternatives to making sacrifices. If you want a movie that challenges those ideals, watch the sequel, Across the Spider-Verse, because that movie challenges the characters on where they're willing to draw the line for how much they're willing to sacrifice in favor of the greater good. If that's the kind of movie you want, that's fine, but Into the Spider-Verse isn't the movie that's focused on challenging that.
Noir questions who Miles is, and Peter B hypes him up and says he is the one who will save the multiverse, whatever the fuck that means, then says he can turn invisible and shoot zappy things. But Miles, right now, can't do it on command. And then they all look down on Miles like he's shit. But Miles has spider powers. He has the exact same powers as Peter and Gwen, and probably the Spider-Noir guy. Miles' invisibility and electricity are in addition to the regular Spider-Man powers. Peter and Gwen know he's a newbie, but the others don't. Why are they shitting on him?
They know Miles is new to this because the Spider-Man of this universe died and nobody has ever heard of Miles' version, who is claiming to be from this universe and therefore can stay back and shut down the Collider. It's really easy for them to put two and two together.
There might be something to be said about letting a newbie join a dangerous mission if his entire world wasn't on the line.
The concern is that Miles wouldn't survive the fight long enough to stay behind and push the button. Therefore, they can't rely on him after they all go home. And if he simply dies right away, then that doesn't meaningfully change the outcome of the fight.
And Miles has been in so many dangerous situations already. He already had a team up with Peter. Also, Miles probably too quickly picked up on web swinging when escaping a science place. He seems to be able to pick up on stuff really quickly. Why not, while you're making a chip, have a quick training montage?
They did try to train him. He was clearly unprepared and lacking in confidence. A fundamental quality is being able to get back up after being knocked down. Miles failed the test at first.
Can you rewire a mainframe while being shot at?
Why would Miles need to rewire a mainframe while being shot at?
Because people will shoot at him while he's doing something, so he needs to learn to multitask.
Surprise attack!
Can you swing and flip with the grace of a trained dancer? I think he's gonna get us home.
Gwen is Two-Face over here. She decided to pile on to the bullying.
How is she being two-faced? Just because she believes in him doesn't mean she won't test his skills. If she believes in him, then she would expect him to pass the test.
Yeah, fuck you Gwen, and fuck you Peter for not sticking up for Miles. And fuck all the rest of you. What is this?
Peter does stand up for Miles. It's in the scene.
Guys, cool it. Am I the only one who did the reading?
He's not ready. It's obvious.
I think he's gonna get us home.
How did they leave both these lines in the script?
Well, she clearly changed her mind after seeing that Miles isn't ready when tested.
No way, he's just a kid.
Dude, for one, he has spider powers, and his world might implode, and two, you're standing next to a pig and a fucking 9-year-old anime girl. The fuck do you mean he's just a kid?
The pig is still more experienced, and Penny has the protection of a futuristic robot that she knows how to control. So she's not just a kid like Miles, who he thinks isn't physically ready for this.
I don't know if I can do it. I'm scared, man. I'm just tired of letting everybody down.
Where did all this come from? Miles was very confident in himself.
Yes, then he lost confidence when tested by others.
Is this all from them just bullying him? Miles has already had the arc of not wanting to be Spider-Man and not believing in himself, to then going in to help Peter when Kingpin walked in. He risked his life, got in some crazy shit, and got out.
Yeah, that played into his growth of confidence, but subsequent events still knocked down his confidence, which made him believe it was misplaced. This is explained in the movie.
And who has he let down? No one can blame him for Peter dying, except maybe he could have carried him out.
Miles blames himself for it, even if it's to an illogical extent, and he still broke the goober, which means he still let him down in his eyes. The other Peter was annoyed by this, and again, he let everybody down in the scene where they all decided he wasn't ready.
Maybe he just blames himself regardless, and then he broke the chip, which he at first seemed kinda regretful about, but then after, he seemed to not give a shit and took no accountability.
Deep down, he still blames himself. Just because he downplays it in front of someone he wants to get help from, doesn't mean there isn't a part of him that takes responsibility for it.
So Prowler is Miles' uncle. Why the fuck didn't he assume it was Miles in the apartment? Is he stupid?
He never gave Miles a key. Why would he assume that's Miles in his apartment?
Also, I hate how little character his uncle has. He seemed like a chill guy, but is actually straight up evil, and we don't know why. For money? Does he know the risk that Kingpin's machine can cause?
I already agree that all of this is underdeveloped, so I'm just gonna skip this.
Prowler is right on Miles, but then teleports to another alleyway and is now on his motorbike.
Or he used his rocket boots to get there. That's entirely reasonable for him to do.
Bro, he's quicker than Miles. He would have to get off his motorbike to catch him anyway, which he was meters away from already doing.
Sure, I can agree that he should have caught Miles given how fast he was shown to be.
So I guess Prowler decides to stalk Miles instead of catching him.
Because the road is too dangerous to do this chase and it can bring too much attention as well.
But then as soon as Miles gets to Aunt May's house, every villain shows up. How did they get there so quick?
It went from night to morning. They definitely would have had time to get there. They could have followed locations that Prowler was periodically informing them of while watching.
And really, I don't think Miles is stupid enough to get followed all the way there.
Does Miles have experience with being chased? His only real experience is a time he successfully escaped from the Prowler, and that's it.
I don't see why you would tell him to get out for any other reason than his safety. But you also think he has what it takes?
Yes, he has what it takes to become Spider-Man, but they just need to train him so he's ready. That's his belief. How is that contradictory?
And then there's something actually hilarious. Nobody is concerned about the 70-year-old lady next to them. How is no one trying to get her out?
They're more focused on Miles because that's who they're specifically after. He's also a kid who needs to be given more instructions. I'm sure May knows to book it or keep her distance from the fight.
I don't buy Miles not being able to unstick at this point. We've gone through it too many times. Like he's web-swinged away from the bad guys.
Yeah, but he's heavily anxious in the scene, which is preventing him from relaxing. He needs to relax to unstick.
The fuck's the anime girl doing?
Keeping her distance.
I said take it outside!
Moving on.
Goodbye, sir. I will not even dignify that argument with a response.
Okay, there's 6 spider people and 4 bad guys. So why is no one helping Miles with Prowler? Peter and Anime Girl seem to be occupied with Doc Ock. Gwen seems to be occupied with Mantis Man. So you're telling me the pig and Noir fella are stuck? dealing with this bozo?
We don't see what happens after they cut away from Doc Ock to show the fight with Scorpion. For all we know, Doc Ock could have grabbed one of them as well, while Tombstone distracted the other. Prowler could have helped them with this to isolate Miles, right before he went back for him.
So Miles' uncle sees that he's Miles, and for some reason keeps strangling him for a while. Like he's considering whether he should kill him.
No, he loosens his grip and just holds him there.
Bruh, Kingpin came as well? Why?
Okay, it's not flawless.
How do you not notice Kingpin getting out the car and pulling the gun on him? It even shows him glance to the left.
Kingpin was behind him, he wasn't in his front view, and his focus is on Miles.
And why did Kingpin kill his own guy instead of the guy that he wanted his own guy to kill?
Because he was concerned about his loyalty, and Prowler would have an easier chance of retaliating than the guy who doesn't know how to be Spider-Man.
I can't even buy Miles thinking it's his own fault, honestly. His uncle has been trying to kill him the whole movie. I think Miles should be mad at his uncle here, and at least question him for being so evil.
He doesn't want to think about that because he's dying, and this is his last moment with him. And Miles thinks he's at fault because revealing himself is what caused Kingpin to shoot his uncle. It isn't rational, but that's how he feels.
But none of that is even touched on. It just goes the easy route of Miles is sad because his uncle died, and nothing else.
But that's all we need for the purpose of the scene.
Put your arms up now!
Why would Miles' dad not stay at the crazy shit going on at the house, but instead stalk Miles?
Because he saw him carrying a body. He thinks he might have killed someone.
All the fights got off-screened? Fucking Kingpin was right there. Everyone just fucked off? You had the villain. I know your plan fucking requires him, but I said I wasn't gonna bring that up. So come on.
They let him go so we can activate the collider for them to go home. And I've already explained why that makes sense, so we'll move on.
Hey there.
And now Miles is joking around and seems perfectly fine.
That's not a joke from him, that's an awkward response when he's caught.
You're staying here.
Again, I don't get how Miles isn't strong enough to be able to join the mission.
Right now, he's irrational and angry, which can get him killed.
Miles, you're gonna get yourself killed.
But I'm ready. I promise.
And if they are under the impression that Miles' world is on the line, then it doesn't matter if Miles isn't strong enough. They need all the help they can get.
They have all the help they need, they just don't want to get someone unnecessarily killed.
Bring a random homeless guy from the streets to help out. Bring anyone.
If they do that, then they'll just be getting people killed for no reason.
Also, the movie was building up a Miles-Peter duo until he randomly starts to doubt him.
It's not random. Miles didn't prove himself and now he's angry and irrational. Peter has been there. He knows what Miles is feeling and how he may behave. From there, he knows that Miles could get himself killed due to his impulsiveness.
Why did you web his mouth? And how long do you want Miles to be struggling to breathe while stuck in a chair?
His nose is still exposed.
Also, how the fuck is Miles gonna explain all this to his friend here?
By explaining what happened. There's no point in hiding it, and the sequel shows that Genki is fine with keeping a secret.
A leap of faith.
Okay, this is the line, which is going to lead into the scene. But let's really think about it. For one, you don't need a leap of faith in order to be ready. You need practice, right? I've been upping Miles' ability more than the film thinks, but he obviously is real newbie at being Spider-Man, and the only way to fix that is practice.
How do you get comfortable practicing? Through faith. How do you practice effectively without constantly hesitating or backing down? Through faith.
But I'm ready. I promise.
It's everyone else that doesn't think he's ready, but he does think he's ready.
He's only saying this out of anger because he wants to get back at Kingpin. That's not a sincere reason to believe in himself. That's just him being angry.
And if we're talking about a leap of faith, how about when Miles went in to try and save Peter after he saw Kingpin arrive?
This is a time where Miles is conflicted on what to do. He's not acting on faith. If he was, his powers wouldn't be fluctuating so much and he'd be able to control them. Instead, his emotions are all over the place, which causes his mistakes.
And then, how about when he literally did 2 leap of faiths? In 2 life and death scenarios, he succeeded in a leap of faith.
If Miles is asking how he's ready, that communicates that he doesn't have faith that he's ready to be Spider-Man. Him trying beforehand doesn't negate the fact that simply putting him to the test was enough to ruin his confidence in himself. Someone acting on faith is not solidified if it can break so easily upon challenge. That's the point of the scene. It's to solidify his faith so that he becomes Spider-Man.
I like Miles' dad's whole speech to him and how he believes in him and all that. His dad is the best character in the movie, by the way. But like I said, Miles seemed confident in his abilities throughout most of the movie. It would give him some extra confidence and motivation, but enough for that to be the thing to unlock his powers? I don't get it.
The scene with his dad changes his perception on why his dad pushes him. It's not that he doesn't trust his capacity for good, it's the opposite. That's where his understanding of himself and his expectations evolves, and gives him the confidence that he can become Spider-Man.
And Miles is just too overpowered from now. He's had so little practice, yet becomes better than everyone.
He doesn't become better than everyone. He doesn't contend with them in a fight or anything.
But obviously the real stakes are when the machine is turned on, it may create a black hole. And I guess the longer it runs, the more likely it is for this black hole to be made. So why is Peter being a weirdo and talking to MJ like it's his MJ? When the stakes are so high?
First of all, the collider is not on yet. Second of all, he's doing this because he expects to die soon, and this is the last chance he'll ever have to voice what he wants to say to MJ. This is the closest he'll ever get to that.
Also, I ain't no Spider-Man nerd. But doesn't MJ normally know about Peter's Spider-Man shenanigans, but she's at the evil guy's place and doesn't know?
Or she's showing up to throw off suspicion that she knows what kind of person Wilson Fisk is.
Why wouldn't they assume that they have defense for the chip? That's pretty obvious.
They thought they didn't know they were there yet. That's why they're surprised. Their plan was to sneak in without being noticed.
Couldn't they just have destroyed the whole thing to put the chip in? Or at least blocked it with something?
No, because the bypass key is still of use to Doc Ock, and it is blocked. They had to open it to begin with.
Miles just stops turning invisible for the rest of the movie, even though it's unbelievably broken. I guess he just ran out of juice.
Okay, it's not flawless.
Looks like our dimensions are coming to us.
Why?
Because Kingpin's collider is pulling from other dimensions.
And more importantly, Jesus fuck, there would be thousands of people in these buildings, right? Why not? It's obviously not shown and you aren't meant to think this, but still. And our characters don't know there isn't.
So I touched on this earlier, but to add on to this just seems to be the origin of the dimensions overlapping each other. This is simply the starting point before we see them glitch through the buildings as shown earlier. We see that they phase into each other when leaving the collider, the same way Kingpin's family just seems to phase in and out of the train. So it's simply a case of the universes overlapping and causing a breach in space.
And way more importantly, are all their worlds literally getting shredded?
No, they're overlapping and causing breaks in reality.
Okay, so they are at the keycard place. So apparently putting the key in gives you more options than just blowing up the machine. It can make like a reversal portal. Either way, it makes no sense.
Why? It's an override key. It gives you control of the entire system. That simply makes sense.
But you're telling me the scientists made a reverse portal for people who have come in to leave and go back to their own universe?
Yeah, because what if something unwanted gets brought in? Then they'd have an easy way of sending it back.
And everyone is truly trusting in this machine made by evil people.
They can be evil all they want. They still have access to its features and controls.
I hope Penny survives the fall without her mech, and I hope all their universes are fine, despite whatever the fuck happened here.
The machine isn't highly unstable right now because the polarity was reversed and her universe isn't taking everything the same way the collider was earlier. It's just a return point.
And I hope they don't all get sent back to a random point in a past or future.
Well, that's not gonna happen because nothing is interfering with the path to their universes or making the machine more unstable. They reversed the polarity, which was originally causing it to be unstable to begin with.
How did he get there, and what's he gonna do? The Waywarder man is stuck on a tiny little island.
There are still platforms he can jump on, and he's clearly angry and trying to throw them off before they leave.
Hold him off! You shut this down!
Hold him off from what, Peter? You're both Spider-Man. Just go anywhere except towards the Iron Golem.
He can still kill Miles. He killed the last Spider-Man and has fought him previously.
Push the green button!
Aren't you next to the green button? Where else is it? Why don't you press it if you want it pressed so bad?
Okay, it's not flawless.
How did Kingpin get here and Miles just go to wherever the green button is?
The Kingpin can still jump to platforms to get here, but I agree, Miles could just go invisible and swing to the button. That is a problem.
He actually decides to adios by the convenient train. Why is a button floating now?
Because everything in the room is floating too.
And then, holy shit, what an unbelievable teleport.
Okay, it's not flawless.
They go into the Between Multiverses realm, so this thing does let them travel to other multiverses, not just bring people in. Jesus, that's a real crazy thing. Wouldn't it make more sense for Kingpin's plan to be joining some other universe with his family rather than bringing them here? The Rick and Morty strat?
If Kingpin does that, then he would constantly glitch and he wants them on his home turf anyway.
That was utterly pathetic. I mean, I am just accepting that Kingpin is a human somehow, with strength way higher than Spider-Man, but still, Miles, what the hell was that punch?
Miles isn't exactly experienced in fighting, so I don't see why that's an issue.
And you die from it. Good job. Oh no, but you see your dad, who's somehow right there.
He's there because he's trying to evacuate the building and investigate the cause of the earthquake, which seems to be artificially produced.
And that gives you the confidence to get up again, whilst the fat man just lets you, and hit him with a, "It's not always about the money, Spider-Man."
Kingpin doesn't think Spider-Man can do anything. He already killed the first one, and he's simply shocked by his recovery. From his perspective, he could just knock him out again, and he doesn't know about his electric powers.
The real Spider-Man couldn't even beat me! You know!
Then Miles throws him at the green button, which is magically turned from being on a floating island to the original fucking place it was. And what if the 2-ton fat man just breaks everything instead of the button being pressed?
Sure, the location of the panel is inconsistent, but if Miles ended up breaking the control panel, the button would still be pressed. Even if its wiring went out, the machine would still shut down as a failsafe anyway because it has no power.
And his dad definitely was obliterated in the process, along with hundreds of others. But no, everyone's fine.
Only the building was affected by the explosion, and Jeff was only pushed back a few feet. That's not insane for him to survive, especially since he wasn't at the center of the explosion, and the universe has heightened physics and human durability anyway.
Even the grey guy, who aren't Mayracked, survived the most insane shit ever.
Because he has super durability. This is known about Tombstone.
Somehow Miles did this off screen.
I don't see how he couldn't have grabbed him and webbed him beforehand. We see a cut in between Jeff getting up and standing outside the building and arresting Tombstone. He would have had the time to do this.
It's done.
So that covers the disagreements I have with the video. It seems like a great deal of effort was put into giving a detailed review, but the creator really needed to look at the movie again to ensure that everything being said is accurate. Now, he did give some good points, and some points definitely made me think harder than usual, but overall, this hasn't changed my stance on Into the Spider-Verse.
So good.
It isn't flawless, but it's still a great film overall, and has more good than bad. Anyway, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I will see you all later. Goodbye.